Muted. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dangerous Ideas. Hope you guys are doing well out there. Massive protests across the country. I don't know why, but it could be the fascist thugs that Trump has sent out to murder people on the streets. But have no fear. If you actually study your U.S. history, the cops have been murdering us on the streets for generations. So this is just par for the course. No, obviously it is slightly different. This is a slightly different form of policing, but the number of murders, I mean, ICE has killed what, 6 people this year, I think so far. Our US policing has killed dozens at one every 3 hours by the stats. But anyway, that doesn't mean this isn't an important time, an important protest that are happening across the nation. Let's see. Here is some video from Minneapolis this weekend. It really is a massive number of people that came out. Minneapolis really seems to be fighting for the nation's soul right now, while the rest of us just kind of watch and go, oh, that's interesting. They're fighting for the soul of the country. That's kind of cool. Yeah, ICE is, as many have pointed out, just the Gestapo. It is Trump's brown shirts. It is the people he can send out to do whatever the fuck he wants, and basically say that if you are willing to fight back against the fascist police forces, then they might execute you. There's a chance they're going to execute you. Alex Preddy was executed. Renee Good was executed. And I know many of you, it hardly seems worth it to review the basic facts of it, because I know all of you are familiar that Alex Preddy, it's now become clear, was a nurse at the VA. And I'm not going to play the video because it becomes, at some point, it becomes just brutality porn or murder porn or whatever you want to call it. But they just took him down and executed him. And yes, he had a permission to carry a gun, and he had a gun on him, but his gun was not being held out. He was holding up a camera. Anyone can tell that from the photos. He was filming them, and they did not like that. And at least one of them decided, well, we'll just execute this guy. Really is horrific. And yeah, just it's from everything that has been coming out about him. He seems to be a pretty impressive person, a nurse, like I said, at the VA. And, you know, his friends and family are trying to combat the absolute bullshit that has come out from the Trump administration, claiming he was a terrorist, or he was there to attack ICE officers, or he had his gun out and he was attacking them. He was violently attacking them. There is no evidence of that. And the Alex Preddy's friends and family are denouncing these sickening lies that are being told about his life. But yeah, I do want to also circle back to what is U.S. policing in this, what is policing in this country. Yes, ICE is kind of a different, it's a different aspect of it, because it is a federal law force, law enforcement group. I, again, hate the euphemism law enforcement, but sometimes you have to use some of the words that people understand rather than all your own words. But and because they're federal, that means Trump can send them where he wants, much like the National Guard, except unlike the National Guard, ICE is more willing, it seems, to just thrust themselves in and attack people. The National Guard also it does not seem to have the ability to actually arrest people, or is not supposed to. They have to call the police to have someone arrested, whereas Trump can send ICE in to do whatever the fuck he wants. And they're fighting it out in the courts as to whether the state of Minnesota can, tell ICE to leave, what they have to do, whether they're obligated to, allow ICE, help ICE, all this garbage. But I do think, despite one being a federal and the other police across the country being state or local or whatever, I still think you need to have an understanding of what policing is in America. And I think luckily we're making advancements. We're making strides in that area, that more and more people are understanding what U.S. policing is as a whole. I did a segment on it on, I think, 2 Unredacted Tonights ago, where I covered just the mass number of murders that police in this country commit. Many of them, I think the majority, are people executed who are not holding a weapon of any kind. Some may be holding a weapon, but often it is them saying, yes, I have a gun and I'm gonna, lay it down or something. I'm not meaning, I am a firearm carrier, because guess what? A lot of people are in this country. And they go to put it down and then they're executed. It's things like that go on. Of course, the woman, was she in Texas no, maybe this was somewhere else, but she went to take the boiling water off the stove because her water was boiling, and the police officer executed her at that point because he said that the boiling water was going to be used as a weapon. They can decide anything is a weapon and just execute people. And if you, believe the Lancet Medical large scope study, then 55% of all murders by police in this country are not written down as police murders. So when you hear, I think now the number being floated is that last year police killed 1,314 in this country, and that's 1 every 7 hours. But with 55% of them not being written down as police murders, that's actually 1 every 3 hours. The number is closer to 3,000 being executed by police. I think the difference between those murders, which we hardly talk about, occasionally we'll talk about one, and we'll talk about an Eric Garner here or there, or Tamir Rice or something occasionally. But for the most part, 3,000, and they're not talked about. It has to do with a few things. One is they're often not videotaped. I'd say the vast majority are not videotaped because they're done in someone's home. They're done during a traffic stop where they're the only ones there. So it's a lot easier for the cops to cover these things up because they're not videotaped. And the body cam thing was a scam. I mean, I'm not going to spend that long going through that right now, but the body cam thing, since the cops control the footage, they usually control whether they have them on or off. They can basically use that footage to say, look, I did nothing wrong. Oh, what do you know? It's missing 1 minute where I happened to execute the guy. But even if it films them doing the thing, they just don't release the footage, or they release it way after any outrage could happen. So like with George Floyd, we didn't see the body cam footage till way later. It was just that someone was standing there filming it, which most of the time does not happen. Thank you. Sheila is saying the boiling water incident was in Fort Worth, Texas, I think. And so is VC Nick. Yeah. Yeah, I'd be interested. VC Nick says the cop was fired and charged. Fired happens sometimes. Often these police officers that murder someone are moved to another, like they'll get fired and then move to another police precinct or whatever and get rehired, because most police departments don't care if you kill an American. But the other thing is when we say charged, or we see charged, often these officers, not often, sometimes these officers will be charged with something, but it ultimately gets, either they comes to some sort of plea deal where they never serve time, or once everyone's forgotten about it and they're not worried about any protests, they just kind of drop the charges, or the judge throws them out, or whatever. The number of officers that are actually charged, convicted, and served time for one of those 3,000 murders every year is zero. Zero. It's a rounding error. The NBC News found that 3 officers had been convicted and charged of murder over the span of 15 years, which is something like it's over 43,000 murders, and 3 officers actually served any time. So it's a rounding error. It's meaningless. But anyway, it is heartening. Here's the thing. For those of you who've been like activists for a long time, or talking about this shit for a long time, or angry about this shit for a long time, you know that like you're of two minds. One is, yes, you're furious. The other is you're also kind of exhausted. The other is you've seen this cycle, this fucking bullshit propaganda media cycle go around every single time that someone is murdered by our police or by ICE, and it makes it an actual bag, becomes a viral moment. You see people get furious. You see massive protests sometimes, like with George Floyd. Sometimes you might see an officer held accountable for a little while before Donald Trump pardons them. But in general, there is no large-scale change. The closest we ever came to some sort of change to policing in this country was the defund the police movement after George Floyd. Ultimately, I know if you watch Fox News, you think this is the opposite of the truth, but ultimately, almost no areas were defunded even slightly, like even partially. Minneapolis, I think, was one of the exceptions that actually did have some defunding. New York City had some, but in fact, when you investigate and actually look into what the defunding was, the money was moved from one type of policing to another, so they could claim they defunded the NYPD a little bit, and then ultimately the next year they actually gave them more money, so there was no real defunding that long term. So after all of that, it becomes this just outrage, wait till it fades, pretend like you might do some shit, don't do some shit. And don't even pretend for a second that the two parties make any difference in this. I mean, the Democrats will raise a stink sometimes when there are massive, large-scale protests across the nation and the Democrats start to view it as something that can help them get elected. Then they might raise a little bit of a stink. But the Democrats have been heavily funding ICE for years. They continue to fund ICE. Most of them want to fund ICE and have supported ICE and have supported this attack on immigrants. But as we're seeing, ICE is killing non-immigrants. It's not just an attack on immigrants. But the truth is, if you actually study where this stuff goes, it starts as an attack on fill-in marginalized group. Hey, they're only attacking fill-in marginalized group here. Oh, what do you know? It's coming back to get all of us. Oh, what do you know? They're executing white dudes in the street. Oh, what do you know? He was a card-carrying gun carrier. And yet, where's the right wing? Shouldn't the right wing be up in arms that the cops at ICE would kill a card-carrying gun carrier? That should be their guy. They should love that guy. But of course, the right wing's not there because they support Daddy Trump. It's interesting that the right wing acts like they're all tough guys, and yet at the end of the day, they just want to make Daddy Trump happy. They just want to make their daddy happy, and so it really is the infantilization of that group that acts like they're so tough is pretty fascinating. Here's something else that you guys should know is if you have Ring cameras or know someone who has Ring cameras. This Instagram post says, ICE thanks you for your cooperation. Ring cameras, and I've been talking about this for years, but there's an update that we've talked about a little bit. ICE cameras. Ring cameras, they're owned by Amazon. And Amazon is a weapons contractor, a contract with the Pentagon. So really you are, by putting a Ring camera on your house, you are agreeing to basically film your neighborhood for the authorities, for the Pentagon. But the update that came recently is that flock cameras, which are used mainly by ICE and police to catch immigrants, although they also use them to catch women seeking abortions out of state, seeking the rights they should have to their own body out of state. But eventually those flock cameras will be used to predict our moves, to monitor people that they think might be activists, those type of things. So it'll just get worse and worse. But Flock and Ring have now made a deal so that Ring cameras will be placed into Flock's surveillance system. Flock was, until now, only monitoring license plates. But again, they were monitoring license plates that had done nothing wrong because they're monitoring everybody's license plates that go by those cameras. So they're basically, it's a warrantless search of your movements. But they are used heavily by ICE to find out where, cars associated with immigrants might be going. Thank you again, VC Nick, for supporting the show. 7 House Democrats just voted to pass spending package to fund ICE. The Senate will vote on it on Friday. Dems saying they won't pass it. We'll see. But again, you wouldn't be in this place with ICE being this powerful if it weren't for Democrats. Democrats have been big ICE supporters up till now. Yeah, maybe they'll actually have some balls for 8 seconds, but they are the ruling elite as well as the Republicans. They are the capitalists, the top of the system, the wealthy top of the system, as well as the Republicans. It's not two separate groups. And until people realize that, they're not going to understand what the hell's going on in this country, because they're like, why can't the Democrats just stop some of this shit? Because they don't care to. Tom Homan, that's just been sent to Minneapolis by Trump. That's the one of the news headlines they've been covering today. He's the border czar or whatever they're calling him. He's had different positions, so sorry for. He's the border czar now. He was one of the heads of DHS, I think, before, but whatever. Doesn't really matter. Point is, he's been doing this forever, and Obama loved him. Obama gave him the top honor for being a racist sack of shit, and very pivotal in ICE's growth. He also was just caught last year by the FBI taking a $50,000 bribe of like cash in a bag, like old school, like $50,000 in a bag kind of shit. And they caught him because it was an FBI agent doing this thing. And yet they let Trump get into office, and they waited to see whether Tom Homan would actually do the thing he was being bribed for, which was to bring something to certain issues to Trump's attention. And so they waited. Well, once Trump took over the FBI, they just got rid of the case. Oh, it's fine. You can take bribes. What do we care? What do we care if you're woefully corrupt? Anyway, that's the guy Trump is sending to fix Minneapolis right now. All right, so I got off on the tangent of the two parties, but Amazon's Ring to partner with Flock, a network of AI cameras used by ICE, feds, and police. And I think there's a lot of this bullshit liberal crap of like, well, if I ain't doing anything wrong, then I shouldn't worry about having a camera on my property, or whether you have a camera on my property. Nobody doing anything wrong. Well, guess what? A lot of people get in a lot of trouble for not doing anything wrong. People are put into prison, not doing anything wrong. People are executed, like Alex Petty, for not doing anything wrong. So the whole idea of you're not doing anything wrong means you can't be punished is just garbage. Amazon surveillance camera maker Ring announced a partnership with Flock, a maker of AI-powered surveillance. Now agencies that use Flock can request that Ring doorbell users share footage to help with evidence collection and investigative work. So at the moment, you I guess you have to opt in to sharing your footage. But the truth is that the cops can get these warrants to take the footage. As we know, most of the quote-unquote warrants are from judges that just do whatever the cops want. So it's not like it's like the warrant it's not meaningless, but if you have a garbage judge that's going to just allow any warrant, then it's not much. So by putting those things up, those Ring cameras, whether you intend to or not, you're going to end up helping ICE, helping the feds, helping the police. And a lot of time you're going to end up helping them do horrific shit to innocent people. So maybe back off the Ring cameras for a minute. A lot of people have, back to the protests in Minneapolis, a lot of people have been correctly. Like if you, I don't, maybe it's just my feed, but no, it wasn't just my feed, because I did a search for the term Minneapolis. About half the comments are connecting the protests in Minneapolis to Iran. About half the comments say, or don't worry, Iran's sending help. Oh, Iran's really concerned about what's going on in the United States. Iran's really concerned about this executing of U.S. citizens. So anyway, someone posted this, obviously AI generated, but image of a young woman lighting her cigarette off a burning photo of Donald Trump. because I think you guys know, I covered it on this show, that there's the most viral image supposedly from the Iran protest, the Iran color revolution, was of a young, supposedly Iranian woman lighting her cigarette on a burning photo of the Ayatollah. Turns out that young woman was a Canadian in Canada, and that photo was taken 4 years ago. Yeah, 2022, 4 years ago. And it's not even clear whether she was Iranian. I saw some saying she's actually of Indian descent rather than Iranian descent. But either way, it's a Canadian in Canada. It was taken years ago. And that was the most famous image of the current protests right now in Iran. Anyway, someone's putting out this image of a young woman lighting her cigarette of a burning photo of Trump for the protests right now, which quite appropriate. Quite appropriate. Alan McLeod also posted this. Speaking of Iran, so Reza Pahlavi is the son of the last leader of Iran that was kicked out during the revolution in Iran, and he is basically the Maria Corina Machado of Iran. He lives in Washington, D.C., and he just wants everyone to coup his country and bomb his country, like as if he has an allegiance. Same with Maria Corina Machado. She wants everyone to bomb Venezuela because she loves Venezuela, right? That's why you want someone to bomb your country. Anyway, the two of them posted a photo together about how proud they are to know each other. It's like, I had the pleasure of meeting Reza Pahlavi. We exchanged insights, our respective struggles. And Alan McLeod from Mint Press, also a friend of mine, he says, two nobodies desperately hoping the U.S. will bomb their own countries into accepting them as dictators. That's exactly what it is. It is two people that nobody in their countries has voted for to be anything, and they both are hoping the U.S. will bomb their countries so that they can then be the dictator of said country. It's beautiful, right? It's beautiful. Okay, I am going to change the subject here. If any of you are, part of the protests or anything in Minneapolis or other cities, be safe, and I hope things go well. And great job standing up for your community, standing up for the people that need help, need defense. That's a beautiful thing, and that's what we can do during these crazy times. So yeah, keep at it. And anyway, I am changing subjects to something I did not have time to cover last Friday, but I think it's important during all of these issues that Trump is half using as basically just a way of covering up the Epstein files. It's important to keep reminding everyone that Trump is a pedophile. I think we need to remind everyone not to fall for Trump's shiny thing over here. Look at this over here. Hey, I just bombed fishermen in Venezuela. I just kidnapped Maduro. Will you please stop talking about Epstein? I'm thinking of bombing Iran again. Will you please stop talking about Epstein? I'm thinking of stealing Greenland from NATO. Will you please just stop talking about Epstein, for the love of God? Like, what level Trump will go to cover up the Epstein files? I know I realize there are other things going on, like the petrodollar, which I talk about a lot. It's not just about covering up the Epstein files, but it certainly is convenient. Anyway, so I think it's important to bring up when things like this come out. This is a video. I'm not going to play that much of it, but this is a video of a young woman, at the time, very young, but when it happened. Her name's Katie Johnson. She sued Trump for raping her when she was a 13-year-old at Jeffrey Epstein's New York home. Now, I covered this story back when it came out in 2016. 2016 is when we first heard from this woman, except we didn't know her name. It was Jane Doe then. And she had this case, and I covered it on Redacted Tonight. That was my TV show then. Now it's my independent version now is Unredacted Tonight. And the case just disappeared. And I remember I may have even covered that the case disappeared. I can't remember if I did a segment on the fact that it's gone now. It had been there. We saw it. This woman's bringing charges against Trump. Gone. And it was unclear as to why. I kind of figured they had like settled it and Trump or people for Trump had paid her a lot of money to go away. But whatever it was, disappeared. Anyway, now, and I don't know when people first got access to this, but her sworn court testimony is public record. And this was the first time I saw it. But again, it could have been out 3 years ago and it just never came across my radar. So maybe this goes back in in our new category of how did I miss that? I'm not really sure. But anyway, this is the video of her. This is her sworn testimony, court testimony. Because basically you do these testimonies when it's prior to it actually going in front of like a jury. You do these testimonies not in a courtroom, but in a like room where they do them. So that's why it will often look. It's just a video. It's not going to look like a courtroom. Anyway, her face is blurred in this. I'm just going to play a minute of it. It's 7 minutes long. I'm sure you can find it online with a quick Google search, but I'm just going to play a minute.
I came to this interview on my free will. No, there was nothing promised to me for doing this interview. Excellent. Yes, everything that I say at this interview will be the truth. I met Donald Trump at some parties I attend that I was working for Mr. Jeffrey Epstein. There was about 3 or 4 times that I had encounters with Donald Trump. I was 13. The first time that I met Donald Trump was at a party at Jeffrey Epstein's mansion. There was an orgy going on, and he was kind of watching off in the distance.
All right, I'm not going to play it both because that's not really the kind of show I do, but also because I'm sure this video will get demonetized and all that stuff if I play what actually went down. But I'm sure it's easy to find the video. Anyway, she has stated that she ultimately dropped the case in 2016 because of threats to her and her family. And I kind of figured it was either that she got paid off, which I also don't like when someone's had these horrible things happen to them and it's like, hey, you get to avoid the whole court case and here's whatever millions of dollars. It's like, I don't think you should fault people for like, I don't know. I mean, it depends on the type of thing, I guess, the type of case, but if that had been the case that she'd gotten paid off, I would have said good for her. Like if that's what solved it for her and she viewed as justice, then all right. But anyway, she said she dropped it because of threats to her and her family. I don't know if she's revealed whether she had any idea where those threats came from, whether it was just an unknown voice on the other end of the call, sounding a lot like Donald Trump. But anyway, she goes on to say that not only was she raped, but that they understood what her age was. She initially thought it just had to do with massages, which is this story we've heard about most of the Epstein girls. Anyway, I think it's important to highlight these stories because I remember covering this in 2016, and then when it went away, I was like, where did that go? And then Epstein gets, he killed himself. He did not get murdered in prison. And when that happens, I was like, what about that girl who brought the case against Donald? Like, why is no one talking about that? And you couldn't find hardly anything on it except from a couple of newspapers that most people don't trust. And I was like, where the hell did that thing go? Where did that story go? And after all these years, I'm now seeing it pop up again. Yeah, everyone should know this story. Everyone should know that this woman came forward. They should add it to the pile of evidence that Trump might have known something about Epstein. Trump might have been involved in something Epstein was doing. I don't know. Who could say? Who could know? So, yeah. Let's see. I will put the link to that video in the chat here if you actually want to go watch it. But all right, I am going to move on from that to Israel and the opening of the Rafah Gate. But we also have leaked documents about what the U.S. is doing with Gaza. We have leaked video of an Israeli ambassador. All that's coming up right now. Let me just pause for a moment and say it would be amazing if you could sign up for free or as a paid member at realleecamp.substack.com. You could also do patreon.com/leecamp. You can also do leecamp.net, my locals page. Any of those will work. Basically, I'm asking for a beer a month. Can you throw me the cost of a beer a month? Have you ever bought a beer for a friend? Then let's just view it like that. It would be amazing. Like this show, I think most of you know by now, but we get almost zero ad dollars. We get no corporate backers at all. I'm not friends with a lot of billionaires. This is entirely funded and only keeps going because of people like you. And almost all of it is people like you throwing in $8 a month. Like there are not a lot of people that sign up for a lot more. I'd love for you to do that, but realleecamp.substack.com. And again, if the beer a month is like bank breaking for you, it really is. Like I could have a sandwich or I could join Lee's Substack. Don't do it if that's the case. I never ask people because I'll occasionally get an email from someone who's like, dude, I would really love to support you. I literally have negative money and I'm trying to figure out how to pay my rent. Don't sign up. I'm not looking for people to do that if it's that hard for you. But if you have $8 and it's not that big a deal, it would be amazing if you can help support this show. realleecamp.substack.com. You are the only reason we survive. Also, just letting you know, this is also a podcast. It's called Moment of Clarity on most platforms. It's called The Lee Camp Show on Spotify because it was originally banned, or it was banned a few years ago. So Lee Camp Show or Moment of Clarity. I also do Government Secrets once every 2 weeks, and I do Common Censored with Eleanor Goldfield. So if you like podcasts, check out one of those. Okay, I'm going to keep going here. So here is, it's just a minute of it, but this leaked video of an Israeli ambassador saying genocidal statements, and he doesn't know he's being filmed. And it's Israeli ambassador to Austria, and he was secretly filmed. And then the result was they sent the authorities to go into the home of the guy that filmed him and steal all of his video cameras, all of his data, anything because they were trying to stop this video from getting around. So I'll just play a few minutes of this. Let me make sure it's at the beginning on the garbage platform that is Instagram.
I'm going to play golf in Gaza.
So I'm going to have to, because it is, because it is quiet, I'm going to have to relay some of what he said. But he said, I'm going to play golf in Gaza. His point is, he thinks he's talking to supporters, right? He thinks he's talking to Zionist supporters. And he's trying to tell a small table, a group of people, it's like 20. And he's saying to them, when this is over, I will be playing golf in Gaza. Basically, we will have fully ethnically cleansed Gaza. He's admitting that to them. He says, whether you like it or not.
You like it or not.
If you're believing that Israel is targeting babies intentionally, which is not correct.
He said, if you believe Israel is targeting babies intentionally, it's not correct.
There should be a death sentence to be killed off in war if you hold a gun.
But then he says there should be a death sentence to be killed off in war if you hold a gun. Meaning not that you shot at IDF, literally just if they've ever seen you with a gun, you should be executed. And he's also calling it a war. It's not a war, it's a genocide. But
you are a 16-year-old and under UN, whatever it is called, a child, a 17-year-old.
He says even if you are a 16-year-old and under UN, I think he means a UN staff member, because remember, they bombed UNRWA, which was the large UN organization. They bombed them many times. They have also tortured UN personnel. But he's saying, it doesn't matter your age, really. If you've got a gun near you, we'll just execute you.
Who hold
Our house got raided because of it.
Okay, then it switched to the guy that filmed it.
Here's to offer you a bit of a backstory. I'm German and Moroccan Jewish. In March, I was invited to a meeting with the Israeli ambassador to Austria, David Rud. We met in the Jewish Community Center where the press took pictures and he sat down with about 20 people. He started talking about diplomacy, hostages, and the usual Zionist visions. Without anyone asking, he said, if Europe were crazy enough to invest again in Gaza, we would have to destroy it the next time. Everyone listened attentively as a man of influence spoke.
So he basically says, if they rebuilt Gaza, we'd genocide them again, is what he's saying. And again, these are several genocidal admissions. They're genocidal statements. These are the type of things that the ICC uses to show intent by Israel to commit genocide. And what did Austria do? Much like the UK or US, they go after the guy that filmed him. They don't care about the genocide. They just want to stop people from filming those admitting to the genocide. So they raided this guy's house and stole all of his stuff, thinking the video wouldn't get out. And ultimately, the video got out anyway. So thank goodness for that. Let's see. Also on the leaked front about Israel, Dropsite News has a leaked document of the Board of Peace resolution that outlines the U.S. plan to rule over Gaza. We brought you a bunch about the Board of Peace on the last episode. Trump's Board of Peace, which is his competitor, it seems, to the UN. But the initial creation of the Board of Peace that outlines how it would work and everything says nothing about Gaza. So Trump wants to create this to have far more influence than just Gaza. But anyway, from Dropsite News, the so-called Board of Peace that President Trump officially launched in Davos last week is developing sweeping plans for U.S.-backed administration to run Gaza. According to a draft of the board's resolution, Dropsite obtained the unsigned document. The metadata indicates that the document was created in mid-December by the State Department. Sounds like a world entity, doesn't it? Created by the State Department. Previously announced members are Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, former UK Prime Minister. By the way, these are all war criminals. I don't think there's anyone on this list that's not a war criminal at the Board of Peace. Former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair, Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, businessman Mark Rowan, World Bank President AJ Bonga. It's good to have the World Bank in there. Just if you're gonna commit genocide and rule over a genocide, then I think the World Bank should have a seat at the table. And Deputy National Advisor Robert Gabriel, Trump's Chief of Staff Susan Wiles, and Martin Edelman, a real estate attorney and a special advisor to the government of the United Arab Emirates, are also on the Board of Peace. And if you missed my last episode, Trump has written himself as the ruler of the Board of Peace. He cannot be removed. There is no voting him out unless it were unanimous, which with his son-in-law and everyone else that are servile toadies licking his ass, that would never happen. So he's the permanent king of the Board of Peace, whether he's president of the United States or not. Here's a quote from the former UN Undersecretary in General for Humanitarian Affairs and current Executive Director of the Mediation Group, Martin Griffiths. He says it's sadly the case that neither the Board of Peace nor its subordinate structures are representative or accountable. This may be seen in the untrammeled power of the chairman, Mr. Trump himself. Griffiths criticized the resolution for reducing Palestinians to implementers of the decisions of others, leaving them once again not at all masters of their own fate. So if you want to read the leaked resolution of the Board of Peace, you can check that out at Dropsite News. It's exactly as horrific as we thought. Now, this next news about Israel and Gaza, tough to know whether there's some positive to this. I mean, I think there maybe could be, because obviously there are plenty of people that want to get out of the genocidal crosshairs of Israel. you can't exactly, it'd be like faulting, someone for leaving a concentration camp in the Holocaust. Are you really going to be, no, stay there? And it's like, I think the people who want to get out should be able to get out. But Israel agrees to limited reopening of the Rafah crossing. So I mentioned this in the last episode, but it's now, I guess, more official from Netanyahu. Israel has agreed to a limited reopening of the Rafah border crossing between Gaza and Egypt. The office of Prime Minister Netanyahu said on Monday, following talks with U.S. envoys in Jerusalem, as part of Trump's 20-point plan, Israel has agreed to a limited reopening of the Rafah crossing for pedestrian passage only, subject to a full Israeli inspection mechanism. So a few things about this. One is that obviously Israel is going to heavily investigate anybody who walks through that crossing to try and get out. It's not like they're just opening the doors and saying leave, which means if you so much as, and you also have to remember that before, and maybe during, but before October 7th, before this phase of the genocide started on October 7th, 2023, Hamas was the ruling government of Gaza, meaning there were many people in working for Hamas that were not even militants. Hamas was the government. It was doing everything. So there's many people connected to Hamas that are not just the people with machine guns on their backs. And Israel wants to murder all of them. And if you were to go through this crossing and you have, even from a year or two ago, some connection to Hamas, Israel is going to, at minimum, imprison you, probably torture you, and maybe execute you. So think about how many people that is. Just because this door opens at Rafah does not mean that people can necessarily leave if they think, well, I might get through that exit or I might be executed. Who knows? So definitely a tough thing to say, like, oh yeah, why don't you just leave? It's probably a good propaganda win for Israel, saying, look, if they wanted to leave, they would have left. Well, they don't. So that's A, about why it's very risky for a lot of people to leave. B is, where the fuck do you go? You're a person without a nation. They're trying to force them into Egypt, but Egypt keeps refusing. Israel just declared Somaliland a country, even though Israel's the only country to declare Somaliland a country. So I assume they might try and ship some of them there. But it's a big question mark as to where you go if you get out that gate. So obviously, I think I don't even think there should be a wall. Like, I think people should be able to walk away from Gaza if they want to at this point. But it's a big question mark as to whether this is just I don't think any Palestinian is naive enough to think this is just a giant, awesome thing. Doors at Rafah going to open. Hopefully it also means more aid getting in, because Israel has stopped so much of the aid getting in. I think the last, when the ceasefire was like a month old, I remember the number was 14% of the agreed upon aid was actually getting through. I don't know what it is now. Okay, while we're on the topic of Israel, let's play a clip of Piers Morgan talking with John Mersheimer. And Piers Morgan, he's had an evolution, right? His views on Gaza have evolved. He now says that Israel's not exactly behaving correctly, but he refuses still to use the term genocide. And so I've played the clip where he admitted to having an evolution over time. I mean, he knows that his views come from people just destroying him on a weekly basis. So he will have people on, people like George Galloway, Roger Waters, many low key that have gone on and just eviscerated Piers Morgan about Israel and about Gaza. And he would do it week to week. And so now he says he's had a change, yet still can't bring himself to use the term genocide. And here he is trying to find some sort of bizarre justification for how this isn't a genocide.
I want to ask you a question, Piers. Don't you think it's quite remarkable that Israel and the United States, which have been deeply involved in executing a genocide in Gaza, think about that, a genocide in Gaza, are now making a lot of noise about how terribly the Iranian government is treating the protesters? Isn't this remarkable hypocrisy in your mind?
Well, they're very different circumstances, because what you have in Iran is
That's
Iranian.
for sure. That's for sure.
Well, they are different circumstances, aren't they? In Iran, you have an uprising not dissimilar to what we've just seen in Syria, actually, which ended up toppling.
Ironically, sorry, this wasn't even the reason I want to show this clip, but ironically, Piers Morgan has no idea that he's correct. Syria is like Iran. Syria was also a U.S.-backed, U.S.-funded, U.S.-armed or armed through intermediaries color revolution. The U.S. helped create, facilitate, arm, push forward the regime change effort in Syria for years. And our sanctions on Syria put 94% of all Syrians below the poverty line. And we're trying to do the same thing to Iran. But Piers Morgan is so dumb, he doesn't realize that analogy works pretty well, but not in the way he thinks.
Assad very quickly, with Syrian people not dissimilar to what we've just seen in Syria, actually, which ended up toppling Assad very quickly.
But it also, even if he were correct that it was just a people-powered uprising, it wasn't very quickly. Syria's civil war was over a decade, and it was horrific. Anyway, but it wasn't really a civil war, because when you got a U.S. backside of the civil war, that's not really a civil war.
With Syrian people leading that, to the extent that Putin just disappeared, because he could.
He mentions Putin, but no U.S. U.S. had nothing to do with it, right?
He could feel that this was going to happen, and I feel, I hope on behalf of the Iranian people that they are successful. I think they might be this time around, but I don't see a comparison to what has happened in Gaza. In Gaza, but notwithstanding the history of the conflict there, you had on October the 7th, 2023, you had one of the worst terror attacks of modern times, with 3,000 Hamas terrorists causing total mayhem across the border in Israel, murdering 1,200 people, kidnapping 250.
And so, of course, half of his description about October 7th is false. You and I know that the 1,200 that died on that day, many of them, if not the vast majority, were murdered by Israel. So he says causing mayhem. Really, what caused the most mayhem was Israel murdering everybody. We know that Israel murdered hundreds. They fired tens of thousands of shells. They blew up 70 cars with Israeli hostages inside, not hostages, innocent people. So, and yet he is one of the few mainstream media that are still pretending as if Hamas killed all 1,200 people. New York Times and those will now use, mushy language to say 1,200 died on October 7th because they don't want to admit that most of them, they don't want to say outwardly that most of them were killed by Israel.
People, including a baby, a Holocaust victim, and so on, taking these people back into depravity in Gaza. And then you've seen Israel perpetrate a retaliatory attack on Hamas, which I think had gone until the ceasefire way too far.
Retaliatory implies it wasn't planned by Israel, that Israel didn't know about this a year in advance. But you can go read the New York Times article on how Israel knew about October 7th a year in advance, on how Israel knew everything was going to happen, on how soldiers were told to stand down and essentially let it happen. Those soldiers didn't know why they were being told to stand down, but they found it very odd. Oh, don't go on your nightly checks along the wall. Why is that? You have IDF admitting that prior to October 7th, they would have known if a cat walked near the wall. But for some reason, on October 7th, there was hours of just letting the wall get knocked down and people flood in without any response. I wonder why. I wonder what's going on there.
I think that they broke a lot of laws themselves in terms of starving the populace in Gaza, in terms of just killing way too many civilians, killing so many journalists, banning international media from getting in. So many things that they did, which I didn't agree with at all. But I don't see a comparison to what we're seeing in Iran. Do you?
Piers, I'm shocked at your rhetoric. In the past, when we have talked, you have readily recognized that the Israelis are committing genocide in Gaza.
I've never said that. I've never said
Furthermore,
that. I've never said that. I've never actually said I believe it constitutes a genocide. I think that you've heard genocidal language from people like Smodrich and Ben-Gvir, but I don't think it can be constructed as a genocide, because I don't think people who actually wage a genocide are interested in doing ceasefires, which we've now had for...
I love that line. People who are committing genocide don't have ceasefires. Guess what, Pierce? The definition of genocide does not mean you completed all the killing. If that were the case, the Holocaust would not have been a genocide. No, genocide means it is attempted to kill a group of people or a large portion of a group of people simply for who they are, which of course Israel's done. Go look up at the Holocaust Memorial Site's website the definition of genocide, and you will tick off every single portion of that definition as being exactly what Israel has done. But then idiots like Piers Morgan are like, oh, they added ceasefire. Oh, well, now it's not a genocide. Oh, that's great. So if one Gazan were still alive and then Israel had a ceasefire with that one Gazan, oh, no longer, it's not a genocide. It wasn't a genocide because they had a ceasefire. Really? Is that how it works?
God, quite a few weeks and months. Why would you if you're waging an actual genocide against a populace?
So what do you call it? Mass murder?
I would call it a form of ethnic.
What's the phrase that you use to describe what's going on?
I have phrased it as
in Gaza.
I believe it's been a form of ethnic cleansing, but I've not gone as far as saying it's a genocide.
Well, and he acts like the difference between those two terms is like massive. It's not that much. The difference between those two terms is slight. So, no, it's not a genocide. I've never said it's a genocide. It's ethnic cleansing. It's just some ethnic cleansing. He's acting like he said the difference between genocide and like toilet bowl cleansing. Like, well, they cleaned the bathtub. It's not genocide. Like, dude, totally despicable.
You don't think it's mass murder?
I think that the Israel argument about calling it mass murder is that they believe they are responding to defend their people from actual genocidal maniacs, Hamas, who are wedded to the destruction of Israel.
All right, that's enough of that, goon. Yeah, Hamas is the actual genocidal maniacs, not Israel that committed genocide. No, they're not. It's Hamas that in no way committed genocide that acts absolutely is so the mental gymnastics to put forward this type of garbage is unbelievable. All right, I got to get to Michael Peretti. Switching topics. Michael Peretti has died. A great writer, a great academic, great speaker, so important in waking up so many people. He died at the age of 92. The global left is mourning the death of Michael. Did I say Peretti? Oh, I'm still thinking of Peretti from, Peretti, the guy that was murdered. Michael Parenti. The global left is mourning the death of Michael Parenti, the influential Marxist scholar, historian, and public intellectual whose work exposed the mechanics of capitalism, imperialism, and ideological power with unmatched clarity. Parenti passed away on January 24th at the age of 92. For decades, Parenti stood apart from mainstream academia and political life, refusing to dilute his analysis or bend his language to liberal respectability. I love that line. He wrote not to impress institutions, but to arm people with understanding. Born in 1933 in New York City to a working-class Italian-American family, class was not something he discovered in theory. It was something he grew up with. Rather than retreat or conform, Parenti chose independence, lecturing widely. They mean retreat or conform to elite academia, where saying these things was not really acceptable. He chose independence, lecturing widely, writing prolifically, speaking directly to union halls, community centers, activist spaces, and international audiences. He lived modestly, avoided think tank careers and corporate funding, and kept his private life largely out of the public eye. He was a husband and father, including to journalist and political analyst Christian Parenti. And I want to play a clip of Michael Parenti speaking so you can hear how well spoken he was and how important his words were.
In fact, we had something close to pure capitalism. I remember debating a businessman on this, and he kept talking about the free market, this, that, we didn't government. I said, you're describing something, and if only we could. I said, why must you talk about it as a hypothetical future that has never been given a chance? I said, we did that already. It's called 1890. In 1890, you had a very close approximation to a free market. And what did we have? We had contaminated foods and typhoid epidemics, cholera epidemics. The drinking water in Philadelphia was so contaminated, they had massive typhoid epidemics. We had 11-year-old kids working 14 hours a day in factories, free market. While grown men were unemployed, young underage girls exploited in factories, used in every way, misused in every way in the free market. No government regulations, no bothersome feminists to come along and fill our heads with silly imaginary problems. We had an environment that was systematically pillaged and raped. We had unrestrained monopolies and trusts. We had mass poverty, unemployment. We had no pension programs, unsafe working conditions, a rate of accident and injury that was even higher than it is today. And we had very, very high profits. So you're right, capitalism was working at its best. And that is when capitalism works at its best. Not for the people, but for the capitalists. See, the whole essence of that system is that it has a performance and a goal that is for the people who own the system, not for the people who inhabit the country. And in that sense, it was a better system. And when that guy sits there and says, it was better, it'd be better if we had this, better if we had, he's talking from his class perspective. He honestly believes that would be better. And it would be so much better for him, he can't but help believe that it would be better for everyone else. People always pose that. Well, do you think they really honestly think that is an ideology that would be for the country, or it's their selfish class interest? As if this is either or. I always get a question, some variation of a question like that. That's not either or. Those are both the same thing. The fact that it so well serves their class interest makes it all the more compelling as a belief that it's good for everyone. And it's the right thing and it's the best thing.
Michael Parenti. Sad to see him go. I hope more people fill the void that is left. True words he speaks about capitalism. A lot of people don't understand that capitalism was created and continues to serve the rich. That's why it was created. That was the initial aim of capitalism, was that the capitalists, the people at the top of the system, both distribute the money, create the money, distribute the money, and control how the system works. And it continues to be that way. And yet you have all the workers, or a lot of the workers, fighting with each other, thinking that if they can just stop, immigrants from getting health care, then things will be better for them. They don't seem to understand that the system is set up to enrich the rich at all angles. And I have a chart here. This will be the last thing I show you. I have a chart here to show you just how bad that's gotten. Wealth of the top 0.00001% of Americans. This is their wealth. It was, a little below 2% of all the wealth in the country. Then it got up to 4% in 1910. Then it went back down to like 1%. And then it bubbled along for a little while. Then 2000 started to go up, and now it has gone up on a hockey stick curve, so that the 0.00001% of Americans have 12% of the wealth, and 3 people now own the same amount of wealth as the bottom 50% of the country. And I think Elon Musk is about to make it 1 person owns the same wealth as the bottom 50% of the country. He's getting close. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there, but I do have a new episode, another live stream, 3 p.m. Wednesday. I'll be doing that one, 3 p.m. Eastern, and I hope you'll check that out. I also will be back Friday, 3 p.m. Friday Eastern. And I, of course, will have a new Unredacted Tonight this coming Thursday, so I hope you'll check that out. If you haven't watched last week's Unredacted Tonight, it's available right now, leecamp.com/unredacted. We'll take you straight to the Unredacted playlist. But most of all, I hope you subscribe at leecamp.substack.com. That also seems to be the place where when I email everybody to let people know I've done stuff, most people seem to be receiving those emails, whereas when I do it via MailChimp or other ways, YouTube, of course, most people don't hear about it because the suppression is so strong. So I hope you'll do that. Subscribe for free, or if you can throw me a beer a month, be amazing. realleecamp.substack.com. Okay, I'll see you Wednesday. Keep fighting.